it's been kicked around for a little while having a provincial police force, and obviously there's been conversations by the provincial government in looking at the fair deal conversations and consultation they did. So it's definitely a topic. The question for rural municipalities is that we've got a partnership right now with RCMP. What would it cost? What is the cost for creating your own forensic units? How would you work with adjacent adjacent RCMP? How would you work with other provincial and city police forces if you had a provincial police force? Lots of unanswered questions. It sounds speculative right now, and it doesn't sound like it's really addressing the needs right now, which is having the best force that we possibly can for the lowest cost that our municipalities can pay for sure. Obviously, any increases in cost is important to all rural municipalities, but especially because of the time we're in right now and COVID, and we have a depressed market, we've had unpaid oil and gas taxes. So this is a critical conversation. Anything that costs money, it's all about money right now for us. The RCMP are a professional organization that have been policing in Canada for well over 100 years. And they know what they're doing. They've modernized themselves to provide the service possible. And it just seems in most cases, Quebec and Ontario, I think, have created their own police forces. And I think it just costs a lot of money to do, to provide the same service. And that's always the conversation. And I think the one thing too is about RCMP is RCMP are sort of identified with Canada. I mean, the fact is that the RCMP are sort of our international symbol of goodwill and what it is like to be a Canadian too as well. And I think we need to respect that too as well. The RCMP are a critical part of our culture as Canadians. The fact is 2 police officers that are 30 minutes from me is the same as 1 officer. I'm still 30 minutes from a response time. I'm lucky, maybe if someone's out on patrol and maybe that capacity. The fact is that we need to start dealing with the root cause. And I think the root cause has a few pieces to it. It's poverty, it's substance abuse, it's early intervention. To play the long game on this whole policing conversation, we need to start looking at what's the root cause of this. If we keep arresting people, that's not going to be the solution to this conversation. We really, really need to start talking about how we can play the long game, deal with youth, poverty, substance abuse, addiction, deal with those pieces too that's driving it, and then start talking sentencing. If we make large jails, that's not going to stop crime in rural Alberta, but if we can start dealing with substance abuse and start making sure our penalties are harsher and starting to get kids when they're in bad situations or making poor choices and getting in there earlier, that's how we can solve crime in the future. I think people have left the cities looking for peace and quiet and enjoyment. And I've talked to some folks just the last little while, they've been robbed 4 times. And so this has just become perennial, and they're not feeling safe, and they live in the city and they own a property out here and they're being robbed on a repeated basis. It's hard to say how great rural Alberta is when this crime is so high. And the problem we have is that what makes us great, rural Alberta, large open spaces, not a lot of people, that makes us vulnerable. We're being preyed upon by parts of the population because it's easy to rob us, because we have assets, we have lots of buildings, and there's not a lot of people around. On a bad day, like I used to not lock my doors because I figured someone's going to take a chainsaw to them or they're going to kick them through. My neighbor's not going to hear. I live far enough away. But now we're starting to lock our doors, and we've got other systems in place. I've had to put an alarm system in. I monitor my farm with cameras. That doesn't seem like a peace and quiet place to be. So it's changed rural Alberta, and not for the better. That being said, we're starting to look out for each other. Crime watches are quite strong, citizens on patrol, and working with our local police force, I think, is really the solution to deal with this. And I think, as I said, the early intervention and looking at those touch points of getting people early, talking to them, resource officers in schools, dealing with substance abuse and addiction, those things I think will make rural Alberta safer as well.